You ever notice how someone can look at a completely useless object, something that should have died quietly in the back of a junk drawer, and confidently decide, yes, this is worth money? It's like there's a whole parallel economy powered entirely by delusion and leftover garage sale fumes. We're talking about people who see a melted candle shaped like nothing, or a haunted-looking doll missing an eye, and think, perfect, someone will pay top dollar for this. And the wildest part? These listings aren't even the peak, they're just the warm-up act. Because what comes next? Well, that's when consumer chaos stops being funny and starts becoming a genuine cry for help. 1. Someone once tried selling a rare collectible cloud, yes, an actual cloud, captured in a mason jar and sealed for freshness. They claimed it was scooped during a spiritually significant weather moment, which I assume means they walked outside during a humid Tuesday. The listing proudly stated the cloud was non-refundable because it might escape during shipping. This requires a level of confidence I genuinely admire, the ability to stare at a jar of invisible air, declare it valuable, and then charge $40 for the privilege of owning what is essentially a jar. Honestly, it's the perfect product. It weighs nothing, costs nothing, and has a built-in excuse when it arrives empty. Oh no, the cloud must have evaporated. That'll be another $40. 2. A man once tried to sell a half-used bar of hotel soap because it had the imprint of destiny on it. Translation: he accidentally dropped it, saw a vaguely face-shaped dent, and decided he was basically Moses receiving tablets on the mountain. He took photos from dramatic angles like it was a lost relic from a canceled History Channel documentary. My favorite part? The price. Not $2, not $5. He wanted $75 because art is subjective, right? And apparently, so is hygiene. Imagine paying premium prices for something your hotel already tried to throw away. But hey, in a world where collectors buy celebrity toenails, maybe soap with a prophecy is a logical next step. 3. Someone once listed a lightly used coffin because the previous occupant changed their mind. No explanation, no follow-up, just vibes. They claimed it had been occupied briefly, which is not a sentence that invites comfort. The best part was the seller insisting it had great structural integrity, as if what stopped the last guy from staying wasn't a design flaw but a personal preference. The price was a firm $500 because apparently the second-hand death box market is thriving, and honestly nothing screams recession like people comparison shoppings for coffins the way they would for used treadmills. At least with a treadmill, you know the previous owner got out voluntarily. 4. I once saw a listing for a one-of-a-kind potato that looks like Abraham Lincoln, which is ironic because the potato was doing a better job holding the Union together than its seller was holding their life together. The resemblance was optimistic. If you squinted and turned your head sideways and lost consciousness briefly, sure, maybe you could see a vague presidential chin. They priced it at $300, explaining that it was a historical artifact formed by nature itself. Buddy, it's a potato. And like Lincoln, it's definitely not making it to the end of the year. If it sells, I'm listing my onion that vaguely resembles a disappointed parent. 5. A woman once tried selling a haunted toaster that allegedly burned the word run into her bread. Conveniently, the photo showed a piece of toast with perfect crisp lettering, something no consumer toaster has ever achieved in the history of breakfast. Her claim? A demon lived inside and occasionally requested sacrifices, which, based on the photos, meant whole grain wheat. The item was $150, and she clarified that she could not guarantee the demon would transfer with purchase, which is honestly a pretty big oversight in the paranormal resale community. Imagine buying a haunted appliance only to find out the demon stayed behind because it liked her apartment better. 6. A man confidently posted an ad for premium pre-owned air captured inside a sandwich bag during a Metallica concert. He swore it contained trace amounts of rock legend oxygen, which is possibly the saddest sentence written in the English language. He charged $25 per bag, claiming it was a great gift for fans or investors. Investors in what? Atmospheric disappointment? Imagine explaining to your accountant that you're diversifying your portfolio with Ziploc bags of someone else's sweat vapor. At that point, The IRS should just pat you on the head and escort you to a quiet room. 7. Someone tried selling a cursed baby doll that mocked them in the night. Sure enough, the listing photos showed the doll sitting in increasingly dramatic corners of the house, all taken at 3 a.m., which raises the question, who's haunting whom? The seller claimed the doll whispered financial advice, which honestly is more than most banks offer. The asking price was $60, but they warned that buyers must accept responsibility for any hauntings, mocking, or unsolicited budgeting tips. Honestly, if a doll wants to correct my spending habits, it can stay. That's cheaper than therapy. 8. A guy once tried to sell his backyard hole. Not the land, not the dirt, just the hole. His justification? He'd already done the hard part, digging it. He described it as a versatile empty space, perfect for projects, storage, or emotional screaming. He even offered to shovel the hole into the buyer's vehicle, which shows both optimism and a fundamental misunderstanding of physics. The price was $30, but he hinted that he'd accept trades, preferably something with wheels. Honestly, this man wasn't selling a hole. He was selling a cry for help disguised as landscaping. 9. A woman posted a listing for a spiritually awakened carrot that had revealed truths to her. Judging by the photo, the carrot was shaped like two legs doing an aggressively uncomfortable yoga pose. She insisted it had opened her third eye, but she was ready to pass the blessing on. For $45, of course, because enlightenment should absolutely come with a price tag. She even warned that the carrot must be treated with reverence, which raises the issue of what happens when it inevitably rots. Do you hold a tiny enlightened funeral, or does it reincarnate as a slightly judgmental zucchini? 10. Someone listed gently used teeth. Yes, human teeth, because they were no longer needed. The listing was unclear about whose teeth these had been, or why they had been retired like overworked employees. The seller recommended using them for crafts, jewelry, or conversation pieces, which tells you exactly why dental professionals should not browse the internet after hours. The asking price was shockingly low, which somehow made it worse. If you're selling teeth for the cost of a fast food combo meal, I have questions, none of which I actually want answered. 11. A man listed an exclusive licensing opportunity for his imaginary friend, claiming they could be used as a brand mascot. He described the friend as a tall man in a hat who appears only when the moon disrespects him, which is already too much lore for a being that doesn't exist. He priced the licensing rights at $10,000, which is adorable given that he clearly had no intellectual property, no brand, and no hat-wearing lunar critic. Honestly though, if Disney is listening, this is basically the origin story of half their characters. Maybe the guy was just early. 12. Someone tried selling an authentic dinosaur egg, which, based on the photo, was absolutely just a large rock shaped like disappointment. The seller insisted it hummed during storms, a feature rocks famously do not have, and claimed a paleontologist wouldn't stop emailing him, which I assume means he once received a spam message from a museum fundraiser. He refused to allow experts to inspect it, saying, "Science ruins the magic." Yes, that's exactly what science does. It takes your mystical rock baby and says, "Congrats, it's granite." The egg was $800, which is a bold price for something that will hatch only into regret. 13. A woman posted a bargain deal on used tissues allegedly sneezed on by celebrities. No names, no proof, just vibes. She said the tissues held the DNA of greatness, which is one way to describe airborne pathogens. Her price? $20 per tissue, though she offered a discount bundle called the VIP Allergy Pack. I cannot emphasize this enough. She was selling germs, actual germs. And somewhere, someone probably considered it. Honestly, in a culture where people fight over shoes worn once by a pop star, used tissues feel like the logical and horrifying next step. 14. A seller tried to list a partially invisible chair. The photo showed a regular chair wrapped in saran wrap, sitting in a driveway like it was auditioning for a low-budget sci-fi movie. The seller insisted it was future furniture, and that non-believers simply lack vision. They priced it at $120, which is more insulting than the chair itself. They even warned that sitting on it required trust and spiritual alignment, which is exactly how chairs don't work. If I'm paying triple digits for a place to sit, it should at least support my body weight without needing a pep talk. 15. One man proudly listed a fully functional time machine, which turned out to be a microwave with the numbers scratched off and replaced with handwritten years. He claimed it could transport food into the future, which, hate to say it, is literally what microwaves do. The listing included testimonials from satisfied travelers, all of whom were definitely him using different fonts. He tried selling it for $400, adding that he couldn't demonstrate it because time is a fragile concept and also the cord is broken. I'll give him this. If confidence alone powered time travel, this man would already be in the year 3000. 16. Someone once tried selling a mildly psychic rock, claiming it predicted the future by vibrating gently when danger approached. Based on the listing photos, the rock was just sitting on a paper towel next to a can of Mountain Dew, radiating absolutely no prophetic energy. The seller swore it hummed during arguments, thunderstorms, and whenever someone was lying nearby, which conveniently are also the exact conditions under which refrigerators buzz. They priced this geological life coach at $60 and clarified it cannot be used to predict lottery numbers due to ethical limitations. Right? Because if there's one thing a rock found in a driveway cares about, it's ethics. Honestly, if a rock vibrated every time someone lied, it would have shaken itself to dust during the creation of the listing. 17. A man once listed nearly authentic medieval armor, which was just a complete suit made from repurposed trash cans and a colander welded to a bike helmet. He claimed he had worn it in battle, and by battle he meant a LARPing event behind an abandoned Staples. He insisted it offered superior protection, which is bold considering one good sneeze would probably dent it beyond repair. My favorite detail, his statement that it may or may not stop arrows, which is basically the legal equivalent of shrugging. For $150, he promised history, heroism, and a faint smell of victory, though judging by the rust stains, that smell was definitely mildew. If an actual medieval knight saw this thing, he'd go right back into the grave out of embarrassment. 18. Someone confidently tried to sell a jar of night air, claiming it was collected at midnight during a full moon for spiritual purposes. The jar looked suspiciously like something that once housed instant coffee. The seller claimed the air was infused with mystical darkness and could bring clarity, peace, or at minimum, a moment of deep inhalation. Incredible. Air marketed as aromatherapy because it happened to be outdoors at a certain hour. They also mentioned it should be stored away from sunlight, which, yes, is how literally all jars work. The asking price was $22, which is impressive because you could go outside and collect your own night air for free, or for added excitement, open the jar during the daytime, and commit atmospheric blasphemy. The audacity is almost admirable. 19. There was a listing for a used wedding cake topper featuring a couple who appeared to be reconsidering everything. The figures were leaning slightly apart, probably due to heat damage, but the seller insisted this represented the tension of modern love. They described it as symbolically powerful and said it would be perfect for couples who appreciate honest, realistic romance. Nothing says celebration like plastic bride and groom figurines staging a micro-divorce on your actual cake. They wanted $30 for this miniature relationship crisis, claiming it would start conversations, which it absolutely would. Conversations about why you bought a cake topper that looks like it survived therapy. If symbolism is what you're after, skip the topper entirely and just stick 2 forks in the cake. 20. Someone tried selling a limited edition artisanal stick found in their yard, priced at $18. They described it as a naturally occurring wooden sculpture, which is a poetic way of saying they bent down and picked up a stick. They claimed its shape embodied the essence of resilience, and the listing included multiple glamour shots taken on a blanket like it was posing for a woodland-themed magazine spread. They even warned buyers not to expose it to fire, which is a bold safety tip for something that is, by definition, kindling. Look, if I wanted a free stick, I'd go outside. If I wanted a pretentious stick, I'd go to an overpriced craft store. But a random stick with a personality bio, That's a new level of entitlement from nature itself. 21. A guy once listed a semi-functional drone, which turned out to be a kite with a GoPro duct taped to it. He claimed it was perfect for aerial surveillance, as long as there was an enthusiastic breeze and a friend willing to run. He insisted the device had captured breathtaking footage, though all the sample videos looked like the aftermath of a toddler shaking a camera during a sugar rush. He priced it at $50, firm, because innovation isn't cheap. That's true, but duct tape absolutely is. He even clarified that the drone cannot be controlled traditionally, meaning it has all the precision of a leaf in a hurricane. If this thing surveilled anything, it would be purely by accident, and probably upside down. 22. Someone once tried selling a mysterious key they found in a thrift store jacket pocket, advertising it as a portal to destiny, or possibly a locker. They played up the intrigue, suggesting it might unlock forgotten fortunes, ancestral secrets, or a filing cabinet at a dentist's office. The listing photos were comically dramatic, with the key staged on velvet like it was Excalibur. They wanted $40 for it, declaring that it held limitless potential. Realistically, its only potential was unlocking disappointment, but you have to respect someone monetizing ambiguity. Imagine buying a key with no lock and telling people it's your conversation starter. If mystery had a price, it should cost more than $40, but probably less than your dignity. 23. A woman listed a pre-loved manifestation journal, which, translation, means a notebook full of things she wanted but didn't get. She claimed the journal still held residual manifestation energy, promising it would help the next owner achieve what the universe stole from her. The photos showed heavily doodled pages, including affirmations like, "Money is coming," and "This year is my year," which, considering she was selling the journal, it absolutely was not. She priced it at $25, saying she was ready to release its power, which is a poetic way of saying she gave up. If I buy someone else's failed dreams, do I inherit the debts too, or just the disappointment? Hard to tell where the metaphysics ends and the coping begins. 24. A man tried selling the world's quietest alarm clock, which was literally just a clock with the battery missing. He claimed it offered a gentle, non-invasive wake-up experience, relying on intuition rather than noise. Sir, that's not an alarm clock. That's an object. He insisted the buyer would awake naturally at the perfect time, which is bold, considering most people's perfect time is whenever chaos forces them out of bed. His argument? Conventional alarms are oppressive. Okay, then explain how this silent clock helps anyone get to work before they're fired. He asked $10 for this minimalist masterpiece. But honestly, if you want a device that does nothing, just hold your hand out. Congratulations, you've invented the quietest alarm clock for free. 25. Someone confidently tried selling a DIY dental kit, which consisted of pliers, a mirror, and what looked suspiciously like a flashlight from a Halloween costume. They claimed it was perfect for people tired of paying dentists, and insisted it enabled sovereign oral care, which is a phrase that should never be uttered. The instructions were handwritten and included steps such as "don't panic" and "grip firmly but with love," which is exactly what professional dentists do not do. The asking price was $45, which is both too cheap and too expensive, depending on how much you value not destroying your own mouth. Honestly, if your dental plan involves Craigslist, you've already skipped several important life checkpoints. 26. Someone once listed a vintage whisper. Yes, an actual whisper, captured in a seashell. They claimed the shell held the last words of an old sailor, which must have been incredibly convenient since whispers notoriously travel poorly. The listing said the whisper was faint but emotionally rich, and that you could hear it if you held the shell close and opened your heart. I love that they gave instructions for listening to something that obviously is just ocean noise. They priced this auditory relic at $15, which is a bargain if you enjoy paying for things that don't exist. To be fair, at least shells make noise. That's more than I can say for most secondhand emotions being sold online. 27. A man proudly attempted to sell his invention, a fork taped to a second fork, which he dubbed the double fork, twice the efficiency. He insisted it would revolutionize the eating experience, claiming you could double your food intake with half the effort. Physics disagreed. The photos showed a tangled metal mess barely resembling an utensil, held together with tape that had clearly been retired from its previous career. His tagline? Why settle for one fork when you can have two? Because, my friend, humans have fingers, coordination, and dignity. He priced it at $12, which is still too much for a prototype that belongs in both a trash can and a time capsule documenting human regression. 28. Someone tried selling a plastic lawn flamingo they claimed was emotionally supportive. Not functionally supportive, emotionally. They said it provided comfort during difficult times, which honestly is not the flamingo's fault. It just existed. They described its posture as encouraging and said its presence soothed anxiety, particularly in the evenings when the porch light hit it just right. That's less emotional support and more mild delusion. They priced this avian therapist at $35 and clarified it had never been licensed, which, shocking, means the flamingo was not, in fact, a mental health professional. If your emotional journey involves bonding with hollow pink lawn decor, you deserve a refund from life. 29. Someone once listed a custom jar of vibes. No explanation, just vibes. The description said the jar had been charged with positivity, which basically means someone stared at it with intention. It came with a cork lid to prevent leakage, because apparently vibes are now pressurized. They priced it at $12 and warned buyers to open slowly to avoid emotional flooding, a phrase I'm almost certain they stole from a failed poetry slam. The listing had 5-star reviews from people claiming it changed the energy of their room, which, sure, anything changes a room's energy if you believe hard enough. Even a jar. Even this jar. Empty? Yes. Powerful? Only if you're easily impressed. 30. A guy once tried selling a partially domesticated squirrel, which is already a sentence that should come with warnings. He claimed the squirrel trusted him, though the photos showed an animal maintaining the kind of expression you'd expect from a hostage. He described the squirrel as playful, though one picture clearly featured it mid-attack. He wanted $150 and insisted it would be great for families, which is rich considering most families struggle to keep a houseplant alive. Also, squirrels are not pets. They are chaos wrapped in fur. If your idea of companionship involves tiny claws and property destruction, skip the squirrel and just let a raccoon live in your kitchen. Same effect, less paperwork. 31. And finally, someone offered a broken invisible dog leash, which was literally just a rope with nothing attached. They claimed the leash had once held an extremely rare invisible dog, but sadly the pet had escaped into the ether and could not be retrieved. They priced the leash at $20, emphasizing it was broken beyond repair, which is hilarious because it never contained anything to begin with. They warned buyers not to tug too hard, or the dog might return angry, which is an incredible threat coming from an imaginary animal. If you buy a leash for a dog that doesn't exist, congratulations. You've graduated from consumer chaos to full metaphysical participation. And that, folks, is the grand tour of humanity's finest attempts to sell absolute nonsense with full confidence and minimal shame. If these were the normal listings, imagine the ones I didn't show you. So, go ahead. Tell me which masterpiece of chaos deserves the crown, or drop your own favorite disaster from the depths of the internet. And if you want to see just how much dumber it can get, well, you know what to do.